Hey everyone, Joe Fox here, President at Growave. You're watching another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive, the Growave podcast. Today I have a very good friend of mine. He is the go-to expert for everything Shopify and Klaviyo in Amsterdam, has a lot of merchants in the US. We recently were lucky enough to host an event which we'll dive into a little bit. But I'm really, really excited to introduce you to Andre from Thails Agency. Andre, thank you so much for coming on, buddy. I appreciate our friendship and our partnership.
Thank you for having me, Joe. Very glad to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit about your kind of like professional background, how you got started with the agency? I think it'd be a really nice like framing point for, I know that you're very well known in our industry, but for any of the listeners that are our customers or just tuning in for the first time, can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yes, certainly. So Andre, I think the agency started around 7 years ago, but e-commerce started much earlier. I think even when I was 16, I was already sort of like importing from overseas and then selling it on like sort of a Facebook at the time. It was not even called Facebook, it was called i5 back in Portugal.
Yep.
Um, and that was like kind of how I started like really always diving into e-commerce. Even back then, like was built actually in Flash, with something that now only older people like us actually know what that is. Um, yeah, through the career, worked in the big e-commerce brands like JBL, the headphones company, and the agency around seven. Really started the agency actually a few years before COVID, and it was really because I wanted to have like a remote team, remote agency, being able to travel. Then COVID came, and actually that became kind of the standard, which is
Yes.
funny, of being remote and so on. And so at Tails, we are Shopify Plus partner agency, and we help brands with Shopify design and development. Also, a lot focused on conversion rate optimization and really trying to be like an extension of the internal brand team. And it's funny that like Growave is like the grow, and all that we always do is really okay. How can we grow with the help the brand grow? So everything we do in terms of the customer experience, really from the home page, collection, product page, cart and checkout, is really okay. How can we help the brand grow? Yep.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that I know from our partnership and some of the merchants, that we're working on together and that we're talking about working on together, and even the merchants that we met, at that event that we did in Amsterdam a couple of months ago now, I found that you have a very, very unique, well, I wouldn't, it's a very unique and informative approach to the customer journey. And I think that your merchants at Tails really benefit from that. Like if I have a look at, for example, Barry M is a really great example of that. Like you are an extension of their team to the fullest extent. I think you provide them with so much knowledge and so much assistance in areas that they may not even know they need that assistance in. And I think it's really fantastic how you do that. So you very much practice what you preach, my friend. So
Yeah. Uh,
we really enjoy the partnership.
Thank you for that. Just to build on that, yeah, really try to position ourselves as an extension and being proactive on coming up with ideas, because sometimes we hear from other brands that like okay they have like a package of hours or something and it's like okay there's hours left, but we will try to build like a roadmap together with the brand, um, to like have proactive approach to reach their goals or their metrics. With Bariam, for example, I've been working in extension of their team for maybe 3 years and a half now, and
Yeah,
this is really like what we like to really like work on a long term, because we really know more about the brand, what it's needed, and you can achieve much better results. But to also touch on the dinner, like very happy that we put that together. Was very nice, especially on like this remote life that now most brands and even ourselves work remote. Is nice
yeah.
sometimes to do stuff physically, and it was nice to bring like brands together and talk face to face and hear like okay what they are struggling with, and so on. So that was very nice and very happy that we made it together.
Absolutely. And I think one of the interesting things that I kind of noticed, from that event is it sounds like there is an opportunity for a continuation of a e-commerce community in Amsterdam. I think when we go to, like places like New York or LA, there's a really robust kind of regular kind of like meetup for e-commerce
Hmm.
brands and D2C and everything like that. But it seems to me like there is now an opportunity for you to be able to continue on those events and kind of bring together people in the e-commerce space, which is super exciting, I think, regardless of whether it's a Growave initiative or not, or sometimes it is or it isn't. I think you did a really good job of bringing together a community there, and it sounds like there's a massive demand for that. So that's really cool. I'm very big on community, so it's very cool. Um,
I need to learn a few things from you on that. Now,
Not at all.
I think sometimes really when you are like online remote, we really and we work a lot with brands in the US and Canada. Sometimes you don't actually look at physically, but it's quite
Mm,
nice to work locally and try to build like connections and a good community here, because it makes a big difference when you speak face to face. So definitely
absolutely.
gonna build on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, Andre, tell me, I mean, there's a lot happening, in the industry in general at the moment. Shopify's made some pretty cool updates. There's a lot of stuff going on with AI, ChatGPT, shopping, all sorts of stuff. There's also, I'd be amiss if we didn't address it because it literally happened yesterday with Yotpo sunsetting their email and SMS product. Strangely, they didn't recommend Klaviyo in that. They recommended some other solutions, which I found very interesting. Maybe not the strategic move I would have made, but very interesting nonetheless. But tell me a little bit, about, because you're so heavily focused on a customer journey for these brands. Tell me a little bit about what your kind of ideal tech stack looks like, because I know that's another thing that you do really well is you jump in with these brands and say, hey, this, you've got all of these tools. Maybe there's something else that you could be using that cuts down on your cost or gets more done more
Yeah.
efficiently. So tell me a little bit about, the ideal tech stack that you recommend for your merchants.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Shopify the first foremost. Klaviyo for sure as well for email marketing. I think is the best tool in the market. Growing a lot on terms of the feature and so on. I think they just launched last week WhatsApp as well for Europe. It
Yeah.
might not be so used in the US, but in Europe is quite strong. So that will be unlock a lot of opportunities as well. Then Growave, because for most, I think is really good that you guys bring loyalty, reviews, UGC, and the wish list all together in one bundle.
Yeah.
Of course, same price, but also that everything is interlinked. What you see a lot is sometimes like things are fragmented between different tools. You need to go to like 5 different dashboards to manage. And that is something that brands will enjoy. And of course, price competitiveness in terms of once you have everything on one, you can also have those savings. For customer service, gorgeous, really good tool as well. And then it really comes to like the specific needs for subscriptions. Recharge is a really solid tool. Also a great team there. And it really depends of what they come, what is their specific needs. But I would say those are sort of like the solid foundation in terms of tech stack. And talking a bit about the current news and so on, I think that's an interesting one. Like two very interesting points you talked about. I think with Shopify AI, it's very interesting. So a couple of weeks ago, they launched this Shopify MCP, so you could connect in some way OpenAI chat functionalities to a store. That was great because you could like build a chat experience that you could create, ask like product recommendations very easily, and it was quite powerful. But actually, last night they just launched a way that it's what they call the Shopify catalog, but also the unified checkout. That is
Yes.
basically what they are trying to do is that a chat function that you can search across all Shopify stores. So it's not only anymore like a specific brand store, but is connecting brand stores directly to the LLMs, to ChatGPT in this case, and being able to search across the whole catalog and being able to check out directly on the chat experience instead of having to go to a website. It was launched just yesterday, so still a lot to dive into, but it's quite interesting on the direction it's going, but also interesting to see how you can benefit without doing anything if you're like in a platform like Shopify, where like it basically opens up that someone in some country just writes on ChatGPT or chat function, I'm looking for these X products, and is display there, and you can buy it without even going to the store. I think it will also shape how our experience is going to be in the future, that sometimes you don't even go to the website, you just like ask for
Yes,
it, a bit like sometimes like Amazon, that you would just like click buy and you actually don't even see the product. I think it will shape a bit how you interact with websites, but I think we are still a few months, maybe years for that to completely take over. And I think it's still very important that you have a very solid user experience on your website, because people will still want, at least now, to go and see a bit more about the brand.
absolutely.
Um,
I
so
just want to chime in there because there's so many good points you've made. I think I'm not sure if you know Jason Greenwood, but he's a good friend of mine. He's a mentor, super well known in that B2B space. And I got chills when he explained, like when I chatted to him about his predictions for AI and the kind of like e-com experience with AI. And to your point, it's happening, I think, a lot quicker than everyone is maybe even realizing. I mean, obviously, us working at the forefront of e-commerce, we're super and hyper aware of these changes.
mhm,
Like as they happen, sometimes before they even happen, we have some sort of an inkling that that's the direction things are going. But I think that process, of not actually even having to interact with the website to purchase, but being more like approaching it more like a marketplace, which sounds like what this update does. It's like the
yeah,
Shopify almost marketplace as opposed to the individual store component. That's, I think, terrifying and interesting, right? Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really I I uh I'm an avid shopper. I think most people who work in e-com are kind of, used to checking out online and shopping online. A world where I hand over my details to a bot that can check out for me is really terrifying. But at the
yes,
same time, I think it's like anything, if there's this element of convenience to it and it continually knows more and more about the user profiles, so their sizing, colors they like, all of those
yes,
sorts of things. I can imagine that it gets to a stage where it's finding really cool stuff for you and sending it to your front door without you even being aware of it. And
yeah,
that to me is it's terrifying. Credit card companies are going to love it, but I also
yeah,
think it's exciting. Like I think
yeah, yeah,
that's really
100%.
cool. Like a lot of the time, for me, I shop with some brands, and then a lot of them are kind of like niche, small, up and coming brands. And then, you go into the shop app and will automatically recommend you brands that are similar. So I think
Hmm.
what you're describing with this new update is super interesting because it sounds like they've really expanded on that functionality in a really, really big way, which is
Yeah,
cool. So I guess what I'd love to add to so and sorry to go on a spiel there. I just think it's super exciting and it's cool because I know we'll do a part two of this and it'll probably be in 6 months and we'll be like, well, this is how everyone's shopping now. But from your expertise, what are you doing to prepare your merchants for that? Like, I'd
yeah,
really love to understand, because I know that you're always pushing for new things and at the
yeah.
forefront of things and being prepared. So what are the moves that you're making for your merchants to be prepared for these changes?
Yeah, yeah. I would say like there is two answers to that question. One is of course experimenting AI and that how can that like optimize the experience. Another one is how can they be found by AI? Because right
Yes.
now, like some traffic on some brands that we work with already are found on ChatGPT. They are not actually doing anything specific about it,
Yeah.
but there is a lot that can be done. Sometimes some kind of comes back to sort of the foundations of SEO, even though now it's called
Yes.
GEO or AO. There is different terminology now that is being used. What we are
Yeah.
doing is one experimenting, but also okay, how can we make sure that the website is also prepared to be read by LLM ChatGPT in terms of making sure that there is more information about the product. There is FAQs. There is like social proof on the website, which is not thing is which is thing that actually help the user experience to buy, but
Yeah.
sometimes are like not prioritized. And the thing is, if you don't have a good product description, the AI will not have that information to read, or if you don't have
Yeah.
the FAQs, they cannot have that information. So more than ever, it's very important that like products are like brands products are really complete with all the information, trying to optimize how that is like also displayed and so on. So we have been like having quite a lot of requests like, okay, how can we optimize our brand for appear on ChatGPT? And we are starting to work with brands on that, on like kind of setting up a bit foundations, and also like advising, okay, making sure that everything there is information about the products and even about the collections, because then everything will help at them like being found. And now is the best time because it's still quite early, but kind of talking about what we just spoke before, that Shopify is opening Shopify catalog, and then it's going to be even easier to find those products. If your product is not optimized, you're not going to be found, so you're going to
Yeah.
like lose a big fraction of potential revenue against other products or competitors. So I think that's very important to start doing now. Brands starting to invest slightly on these, to make sure that like when this is really like fully out, they can fully benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I think that we've really noticed a bit of a resurgence around, I mean, as you said, like the Growave product suite, we have wish list, we have UGC, we have loyalty, we have reviews. And obviously, during different trends, different parts of the product are more focused on, depending on what the end customer is really chasing, right? So like if loyalty is something the merchant's very focused on, typically that's the main thing that we see come through a lot in sales demo requests, or for our CS team, get a lot of requests around how can we optimize this, etc. Or our agency partners are bringing it up a lot, but I think to that point of the optimization, and you touched on it, is like the social proof component, like the way that ChatGPT all these LLMs are talking about products. What I see is like if you're asking for recommendations, they'll say this product is highly reviewed. So I think, once again, with reviews, it always goes in these swings and roundabouts of people are very focused on them, people aren't focused on them, But I think that social proof component and focusing on getting a lot of reviews, particularly in the use case and environment that we're talking about, as things shift to maybe more of this marketplace model, it's going to be so crucial to make sure that your product is highly reviewed, authentically reviewed. The reviews are front and center so that they're put in a way that the LLMs can crawl all of that information, pull it out really quick. Because if you're a website that, is getting a few reviews, but there's no text in it, there's no UGC attached, I'm assuming, and obviously I don't want to quote this because I don't know how LLMs are ranking content or ranking products currently, but I would have a very educated guess in the fact that if the reviews are detailed and the reviews are of high quality and there's UGC attached to them and they tick off all the trust and authority components, that will help those products stand out even more, not just within Shopify's ecosystem, but on the LLMs. So I think, if there's a whole bunch of brands that are watching today, one, obviously, you should be working with a great agency like Thails and someone like Andre, who's an extension of your team. But if you're not doing that and you want some quick optimization, that can fix things, not fix things, but help you prepare for this in a very minor way that could have a big impact, I really suggest encouraging reviews. I think that is is going to play more and more of a part of things. It's already incredibly important, as you know, like in terms of increasing conversion rates and building trust and social proof. But I think LLMs are going to continue, like ChatGPT, to really, rate that information and scrape that information in real time. So I think that's a quick little tip. Anyway, sorry to go on a tangent there, but it's just interesting to me because I see from product side, the things that are going to be more and more important as things evolve.
Yeah, just to what I think, completely agree with you. Just to what I think, even loyalty, which is one of your arms on the app with Growave, is already important, but will be even more important. Because if we think on like a horizon where people just buy sort of like on okay whatever the chat I will buy, is even more important to try to create a relation and retain that customer via
Mhm.
loyalty program. So I think that is also super important to consider and implement right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, thank you for that, Andre. And I know we're going to do a part two on this because we're nearly at time already, and I know you and I can chat forever about these things. But um, I think we've put in place some pretty strong predictions that I'd love to, circle back on in 6 months' time when we do a part two. I guess one thing that I really enjoy the content that you put out specifically. I've got a handful of. I work with hundreds of people in this space, but I've got a handful of people where I really actually think they hit the nail on the head with the content that they put out. And I think you're definitely one of them. I think you take the
Thank
time
you.
to articulate and explain. Well, I mean, it's true. I'm just being honest. So I think, I'd really love, for people to be able to connect with that content. So, are you happy for people to reach out and connect with you on LinkedIn, viewers of the show?
Yes, please. You can find me in my name, Andre Freitas, Andre. But if you want to contact me directly, also Andre, so Andre at Thails.com. For sure, Joe will put also on the show notes the website of the agency. But yeah, feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think more than ever it's important for, brands and for people to really be paying attention to what the best of the best are putting out there in terms of what's coming in the future. So I'll make sure that's all linked in the show notes and I encourage everyone to connect with Andres. Um, Okay, lastly, I love asking this one, and obviously it's relevant because, I was just traveling to you, but in this industry, and we speak about this a lot, and I know you're always going to Portugal and you're always disappearing to different parts of Europe, and you really enjoy that travel component of working remotely. What is one thing, and you can't say a person, that you cannot travel without? And I can go first with this. I don't have it next to me, but mine is like actually I do, yeah. Is a like a portable travel battery. I use
Ah,
this
good one.
so much. I've had a lot of these over the years. Obviously when I was in Australia and I'd be traveling to the US and everything like that for work quite regularly. You go through a lot of charge when you're on a 16-hour flight.
Yes.
And so I have burned through a lot of these. But this one, I recently took on this Europe trip where we caught up and did this event, and this thing is absolutely fantastic. It's huge, but in saying that, I think it gets two laptop chargers, two
Oh,
full laptop chargers, and I think if you don't charge your laptop and then you just charge your phone, it's something like 5 or 6 times. And you're allowed to
that's pretty
take it on,
amazing.
and you're allowed to take it on carry on. So this is a really cool one. I barely even used like hotel charges. Like I really mainly used this the whole time. So uh,
Oh,
that's
nice.
that's that's my item that I cannot travel without now.
Oh,
What's
amazing.
yours?
You can almost go off grid with that one now. Uh, no, I would say for me, my headphones, like my AirPods,
Yeah.
I think for travel is really important. Like especially when you're flying and with the noise and or even when you are just like working, it's really nice to just zone out. and I can really like focus and get some work done, or yeah, whatever. So I think headphones, like good noise canceling headphones, makes a really big difference on your
Absolutely.
comfort when you travel. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're gonna need them even more soon because you're lucky enough to have a baby on the way soon.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
congratulations on that.
Thank you,
But
Nick.
yeah, you might need an extra pair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you can get some sleep. But look,
Ooh.
mate, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. We really appreciate the partnership. I appreciate our friendship. I love what you do for the industry. I'll be sure to make sure all of those, links are in the show notes. And I think as I said to the audience, really encourage you to connect, check out the content. It's spot on. You'll see a lot more predictions. And on that note, I very much look forward to discussing in 6 months' time where we're at with the are we visiting sites anymore, or are we on Shopify's marketplace, and how are we purchasing, and has a bot completely taken over my e-commerce experience?
Sounds good. That's the deal. Just wanted to add that for all the listeners, I'm happy to offer a 30-minute consultation to help with these
Oh,
things,
awesome.
either the user experience or in terms of how to get your website ready for LLMs as well. So feel free to reach out. But thank you so much,
Amazing.
Joe, for putting it together. And that's a deal in 6 months to discuss where we are.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, my friend. Take
Much.
it easy. You enjoy the rest of your day. Mine's just getting started, so I'm going to go get caffeinated. But as always, thank you for coming on board, and we'll chat very shortly.
Thank you so much, Joe. Have a
Thank you
great
so
day,
much,
man.
Andre. Cheers.
See ya. Bye.
Audience, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. As you see, there's a lot of interesting things that are coming in e-commerce. As I mentioned earlier, I really, really encourage you to check out Thails. I encourage you to connect with Andre. Take him up on that offer. That 30-minute consultation is incredibly generous, only available to our watchers. So make sure that you mention that you saw this episode. But audience, thank you again for tuning in. If there's any guests that you think that I should interview, please feel free to mention them in the comments. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive, the Growave podcast. I'm your host, Joe Fox, president of Growave.